Okay, folks, so thank you all so much, and welcome to Ashton and Sonia, who's just joined us there as well. So, this webinar is about the subject of toxic relationships. Now, I myself have had my own share of this, mainly in relation to work colleagues, but it can also apply to relationships and so forth. So I've had colleagues in work that I knew were bad for me, but I just couldn't get away from it. I just didn't even see it at the time, and just kind of upset things. And there was people that I thought were toxic, and I kind of got away from them, and it was the wrong decision. So it's very important to know about this, and the information that I'm going to give you is really key to understanding why you react negatively or badly to these types of personalities, and also what you can do to strengthen yourself. So we're going to be going over that. So now, when we talk about a toxic personality, I found out the definition of the word toxic. I looked it up in the dictionary. Toxic means very harmful or unpleasant and spreading widely, or it could be in a gradual, indirect way, but with very harmful effects. That's toxic. Basically, the word toxic comes from the word poison. It's like toxicon is poison. So you could consider that a toxic relationship is something that is affecting you in a kind of a poisonous way. Now, so let's have a look. We've got two people, and one person, we've just called them A and B, right? One person considers that the other person is toxic. In other words, they are, let's just put down a couple of things. They are maybe affecting them badly. Maybe they're critical of them all the time. Okay? And so the person says, I don't feel good around this person. All right? Maybe the person does not create. In other words, doesn't say anything, doesn't do anything to improve the relationship, doesn't participate. You know, and you could feel like somebody like that who's in the office and, you know, they never get involved, or, you know, you could consider that this person, they don't create, they're kind of like, they're bringing the whole place down. Okay? Or it could be a partner and they're just not doing anything to create the relationship. Okay? What else did I put down here? Yeah, it could be constant arguments. All right, what else have we got? We've got taking advantage. These are just some kind of examples I wrote down for myself. I'm going to ask you in a minute for your own examples. Taking advantage, what do we have here? No appreciation. Okay, and then what else do we have? Yeah, another one would be sly comments. So if you're around somebody who's getting into this type of stuff, critical of you, they don't create the relationship, they're kind of pulling you down, arguments, taking advantage, no appreciation, sly comments, you can feel that that person is basically putting you down, okay? Kind of holding you back, or making you feel bad, or gradually wearing you away, or stopping you from achieving your goals. So this is what we talk about when we talk about a toxic personality, somebody that you consider is pulling you back from happiness through things like this. Now, as the receiver, the person has a couple of options. Number one is they completely cut the person out. Number two, they deal with the situation, they go and handle it and sort it out, and it's all sorted out and the person's not doing this anymore. Or, and what happens in many, many cases, is this person gives up or doesn't know how to handle it, and she'll just lives with it. So we'll just write down those three things. You've got cut, handle, or live with it. Live with it and tolerate it, even though you're in an environment that is just completely destructive to yourself and your health and your well-being. You just kind of live with it because you feel like, oh, you know what, there's nothing I can really do about this. Now, exercise number 1. It's a webinar. It's not a lecture. It's a webinar. So I'm going to ask you for your own examples. Now, here's what I'd like you to do. I'll give you some examples of what sort of poison that one person can consider is coming from another person. Okay? That's toxic, poison, like poison. What sort of poison is coming from another person? So I'd like you to tell me what it is that you run into. If you could pop it into chat. Maybe there's some of these that you run into in a relationship or you've seen it. So if you could give me an example of something that you've run into from somebody else, which is how a toxic person is treating you or somebody that you love. If you could pop it into the chat, that would be great. And as I said, it may be something on this list, but it may be some other way the person puts you down or makes you feel bad. So I'll just give you a moment to pop any examples into the chat, okay? So I'm just looking for what you run into when it comes to toxic relationships. What are the things that you receive that make you think you're in a toxic relationship? I better start reading. The comments are coming in here. Okay, Rebecca Snide comments. Yes, good. Control, right. Thank you, Lynn. Always compared to an ex-partner. Marie, that's a brilliant one. Brilliant one. Thank you so much. Gaslighting, yes. John, please. I've cleared up this word about 4 times. I just can't remember what it means. Please, would you just put down the definition of gaslighting for us there, please, John. Thank you. Maybe all 6, but let's say critical. Thank you, Walter. Janet, jealousy and being condescending. Brilliant. Brilliant. And usually jealousy comes from the insecurity of the jealous partner. And there's more about this in this book about jealousy. It's very, very interesting. So that's a really good one, Janet. Thank you. And Elisa, jealousy. Yes. And Alexandra, being ignored. Yeah, and this would fall in the no creation. They don't want to talk to you, give you the silent treatment. Yeah, it's a popular one. You can't get in trouble with the silent treatment. But it's still as nasty. It's still as nasty. Okay, next one. Ashton, isolating you from friends and family, making belittling comments, not being listened to, laughed at and made to feel inferior. Brilliant, brilliant. That's a nice summary there, Ashton. Thank you so much. Dolores, blaming, manipulating. Yeah, all comes under this critical thing. Arguments, taking advantage. Very good. Being told your viewpoint isn't valid. Yeah, that's a very popular one, Lydia. Oh, listen, what you're saying is no good. You're not good enough. Whatever it is. D, you are so good. Gaslighting when someone triggers you, for example, quietly, and then when you react, make out you are crazy and that you imagine a situation. Yes. I remember it's based on a film, actually, an old film, where a guy tries to make his wife look like she's crazy. Yeah, it's good. Lynn, criticizes. Yeah. Ashton, covert manipulation takes to make you think you are wrong, going mad, or things didn't happen which did. Brilliant. Thank you, Ashton. Enjoys when I'm wrong. Marula, love that one. Love it. And it's kind of not nice. Gaslighting first, the old black and white movie Gaslighting, which is course of control relationship. Yes, John, thank you. I remembered it there when I was seeing the definitions. Fantastic. Using other people to achieve their goals. Yeah. I mean, there could be, like Monica, it depends. Like, for example, a businessman is using other people to achieve his goals, but it's kind of in a nice way. But there can be a manipulative aspect of it too, and in that way, then I can see that could be toxic for sure. Okay, folks, thank you so much for that. That is brilliant. So now, with this type of situation, we know that there are people that bring us up and there are people that bring us down. And you have the right to cut communication with anybody that you want in your life. You have that right. You're a human being. Okay? And some people try to, and they find it very, very difficult. Personally, when I'm assisting people to try to handle these type of situations, I don't recommend cutting the communication. At least not immediately, until all other avenues have been exhausted. I recommend handling the situation. And so it can be kind of easy to cut the communication, but either if you're cutting the communication or you're trying to deal with the situation, the reactions that you can experience, the fear that you can experience, the stress that you can experience can be so much that you decide not to do it. Or it's so stressful that you lose your temper when you're trying to handle the person, when you're trying to sort it out, you lose your temper and the situation gets worse. So For example, why is it that certain people make you feel down? They're just around. They're just popping over for a cup of tea. And then a half an hour later, you feel like, I just don't feel good anymore. I felt great before the conversation. I feel like this person has drained every ounce of energy from me. Or what about, somebody that you feel stresses you out, or they know what buttons to push to make you react, and then push them. Why do you react like that? Like, where are these reactions coming from? Well, tonight, you can just relax, sit back with your cup of tea, because they don't come from you. I'm going to explain to you where they come from. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to explain to you, there's loads of things that you can learn about how to handle a person who is directly putting you down on a continuous basis, right? There's things that you can learn about how to handle that. But what I mostly want to help you with tonight is to understand why it is that you react and back off from handling these situations, where the reactions are coming from, and what you can do about it. Because if you handle that point, you're going to be able to deal with such personalities in the future. If you change job, maybe you have a guy working beside you who's just really nasty, well, you're going to be stronger. You're going to be able to handle the situation. So a lot of this, now what I'm going to go over with you tonight, is about this part, is about you. We're not going to talk about the other person too much. Because, in the tips of trying to deal with the situation, reactions that the person experiences trying to handle it is probably the biggest barrier. If you have a boss, for example, that's really, really nasty, and you decide, I'm going to sort this out. Well, it could take you weeks or months to walk into that office because of the nerves you experience, because of the stress you experience. Okay, so now I'm going to explain to you where it is that your reactions are coming from, so that you understand it, and so that you can clear up that stuff, so that you're more able to handle these situations in your life and spot them early, so that you don't get pulled into it and leave yourself 20 years stuck in a toxic relationship with a friend that's been pulling you down for 20 years. Okay, so let's get cranking. Now, the information that I'm going to give you is on page 50 of this Dianetics book. All right? But let me ask you something first, actually. Let me ask you something. You don't all have to participate, but I would really like to find out from you is, do you feel that there's more you can do about it? Or do you feel that you back off from it? Okay? Do you feel that? Do you feel that you could do something about it? Or that you back off, or you're not handling it right? Do you feel that that's the case? Okay? If so, pop it into the comments. Just let me know what you think. I'd really like to know what you think. Are you handling it, or are you reacting? Are you backing off from handling these situations? Okay? So pop it into the chat if you don't mind. Now, so let's move on. Okay, so why do you react to these people? Why do you get so stressed out? Why do you lose your temper? Why do you become afraid? Why do you give up? Okay? Thanks, Joy. Got it? Well, I'm going to tell you why. So, there's you. And you are just trying to get on in life. You're trying to survive. You're trying to do the best you can for yourself, for your family, for your community, for the world. You're trying to do what you can. You're trying to survive. Backing off and handling. Okay, thanks, Walter. There's a way better way of managing toxic mother. In the past, I used to really react. It got better with age maturity. Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Thank you for that. Brilliant. Okay, everybody's trying to survive. And in trying to survive, you learn new things every day. You hear things, you see things, you gain information, you experience things. And we have this thing called a mind. And your mind is something, it's like a computer, but much, much better than any computer you've ever seen. And it stores all the information that you've learned so that you can make the right decisions and you can learn how to behave, what to say, what not to say, what to do, what not to do in relationships. So you've learned, for example, that your colleague that you work with is a big fan of Manchester United football. And you know that if you start teasing him about it, he gets very upset because you've learned that logically. And so now you can decide, okay, you know what? I'm not going to tease him about that. You know? Of course, some people don't mind being teased, but some people do. So you can logically work out how to treat somebody just by knowing yourself what to do. Because we're all very good at being able to work out solutions. Now, so every day you're trying to survive and you're working out solutions. Now, for the next little bit, bear with me on this. I'm going to show you how it all blends into toxic relationships in a few minutes, okay? And I know this might get into kind of a bit deep into the mind, but we'll come out of it, don't worry. So every day you're recording information and you use your mind to think. And if your mind is in good shape, if you're able to think clearly, if you're able to think logically, you usually make the right decisions when it comes to treating people the right way, when it comes to what to say to somebody, what not to say to somebody, whether to stick around with somebody or not stick around with somebody, how to judge people. You know, you're actually quite intelligent. You can work these things out. And if you don't know about somebody, well, you can find out. You can find out more about the person. Now, the problem is, there's a part of your mind which does not think logically. And in Dianetics, and this is also in page 50 of the book, for anybody who has the book, we call this, in Dianetics, the reactive mind. Now, why is it called reactive? Because it doesn't think. It doesn't use logic. It just reacts. And what's in here? Will we know what's in here? The reactive mind is not this mysterious thing that nobody's ever going to find out about and you're never going to know what's in it. You have a reactive mind which causes you to react to other things that people do. Now, I'm going to tell you what's in here. There are two main things that are in here. There's a third, but that's something I go over a little bit more detail in my online course. The two main things that go in here are number one, and that is physical pain. Okay? Because here's what happens. When you experience a moment of intense physical pain, okay, it can be very hard to bear. So if you're cycling down the road and you hit a rock and you go over the handlebars and you bang your head off the ground, apart from being almost life-threatening if you don't have a helmet, that is going to be an extreme amount of physical pain. Most people find that very difficult to handle, so what happens is this part of the mind switches off and does not record the information, but there's a little separate little part of the mind here called the reactive mind which does store the information. So even when you're in an operation or you have an accident or you know what, a car drives over your foot, the information from that incident gets stored separately. You're going to see how this all blends in. I know you don't want to hear about the mind tonight, but bear with me. The second thing, so that's physical pain, and we'll put in unconscious here as well. Okay? And the second thing here is loss. Okay? There's two major things that you have stored in your own reactive mind. Moments of physical pain and moments of loss. A loss of a friend. It could be a loss of a parent. It could be a loss of a job, a loss of a neighbor, a loss of a pet, maybe you had to leave your country, you know. These are tremendous losses, and they both, the physical and the emotional, can contain a lot of pain, and that pain gets stored. Now, how does this relate to relationships? Now, I wrote down just a couple of examples just to explain this to you. Yes, I'll come back to those comments in a minute because I'm on a roll here. I better keep going. So, there's a part of your mind that reacts, and it can take control of your thinking, your body, and what you say and do, your actions. Okay? And this is called the reactive mind. So why is it called reactive? It's called reactive because it works on a trigger basis. Okay? Push button. In other words, all it takes is for something similar in your external environment that's similar to something in the past, something that happened to you, for this reactive mind to kick in again, and so that it brings back the pain and the upset from the previous incident. Now, let's just see how this works. So I wrote down a couple of examples here. Oh dear, I'd love to draw this, but is it okay if I get rid of this? I want to just make a bit of space because I want to get rid of that. You can let me know if I should move it off the board, if you're fine with that. Let's see, I'm going to check the comments here before we move on, because I got a few there. Learn to handle it in my personal life, but only through professional training as a social worker. Otherwise, I would have felt helpless. Thank you, Ashton. Brilliant. Avoid confrontation, afraid of the outcome. Thank you, Marie. Okay. Backing off, Walter. Afraid to handle it cost me very much in terms of stress and energy. Yes. Thank you. Cobra in a fantastic book on understanding this topic. You'll recognize manipulation techniques and energy. Okay. Thank you, Ashton. Okay. Very good. Now, so basically, there's a part of your mind that takes over. So here's the examples. I'm just going to draw these on the board here. Okay? Now, so let's say you have an incident from your past, okay? And this happened 10 years ago, where you fell off your bike. It's a motorbike, and there's your head underneath it, okay? That's a motorbike, okay? Now, during that incident, there's a lot of pain, okay? You're being squashed by the motorbike, so you feel a bit claustrophobic, okay? And around you, there's a lot of people who are being very sympathetic and trying to help. Oh, the poor man, poor Joe, and so forth. Now, this incident, because the person is in physical pain and to a degree or a large degree unconscious, the information is stored in the reactive mind, including the pain and the claustrophobia. Now, maybe that happened 10 years ago. Fine. Person's not thinking about it anymore. It's whatever. But remember, this incident contains pain, claustrophobia, and sympathy. Okay. Now, let's say this guy moves house and he moves into a new neighborhood, and the next door neighbor calls around for coffee every day. Now, the next door neighbor is a very sad person, okay, and is either A, giving sympathy to somebody, B, pretending sympathy, C, feeling very upset all the time. So the sympathy from here that this person is giving, let's say Joe, triggers off this incident here, and what the reactive mind can do is can lock Joe into this situation. In other words, it can give him all sorts of reactions of pain, claustrophobia can start kicking in, sympathy for the other person can start kicking in when all he has to do is just listen and maybe give some advice or whatever he needs to do. But instead of Joe logically telling the person, listening to them and say, listen, I understand what you're saying, what I would recommend is a book, or I would recommend that you go for a walk every day, or I would recommend that you improve your nutrition, or here's what I recommend you do, and can think about it logically. But because this person is triggering off some buried incident from the past, Joe isn't thinking clearly. In other words, his reactive mind is reacting. It's causing him to have a negative effect. So let me give you another example. This is about a loss. So let's say you have a loss. Okay, so there's Joe. Okay, and Joe's going out with this lady, Mary. Okay, and one day they're very happily going out for 10 years. Great, it's going great. And then all of a sudden, Mary turns around to Joe and she says, Joe, it's finished. It's finished. I'd rather live in a mountain in outer Mongolia than live with you. You know why? He said, why, Mary, why? But I love you. She says, basically, you're good for nothing. So good luck now. I'm going off. Take care of yourself. All the best. I know I made that a bit more dramatic than it would normally be. She might not say outer Mongolia. She might say some Alaska. But anyway, Joe has just had a loss of somebody that he loves. Okay? And down here is the departure. So she's going. She said you're good for nothing. Okay? And Joe has all this stored. He's experienced fear. Let me just write that another marker. He experienced fear, sadness, and it's all stored here in his reactive mind. So in other words, even though life goes on, Joe still has a recording in his reactive mind of what happened. Now, let's say he's in a new relationship. After 5 years, he's picked himself up and he's got himself into a new relationship with Josephine. Okay? Alright, so that's going great. It's going fantastic. And what Joe finds out after the honeymoon period is over is that Josephine sometimes gets angry. Now, he hadn't seen this before. He hadn't seen the other side of Josephine. But all of a sudden, Josephine gets a bit angry one day. Okay? And she starts giving out to him or whatever. Well, Joe, logically, could just listen to Josephine and find out, Josephine, what's happening? And she could say, well, I'm upset because of this, that, and the other. He says, okay, do you know what? Let's go for a walk. And he goes for a walk, and you know what? 10 minutes later, it's fine. So logically, it's fine. Or if it's going on for a few weeks, maybe he just needs to wait it out, or maybe he needs to have a conversation with Josephine and say, Josephine, look, in all honesty, you know what? I love you to bits, but I'm not the kind of person who likes to be criticized all the time. So let's make a mutual agreement that we're going to be nice to each other, or at least polite. Because, you do have a right to ask your partner to be polite to you. It doesn't, just because you're in a relationship with somebody, whether it's a colleague or a friend or whatever, or a partner, politeness and good manners is always good. It's always nice. Okay, so anyway, logically, Joe should be able to just deal with this. It's fine. Totally fine. The problem is that if there's enough similarity in what's going on here to what happened in the past, this incident can start to get triggered. And then Joe starts to experience things like fear. And for some stupid reason, Joe is afraid he's going to lose Josephine. Now, Josephine has no intention of leaving him. She loves him. She's just upset. But Joe has all of a sudden got this fear that she's going to leave him. And that fear is coming from nowhere except from this incident from the past, which is stored in his reactive mind. Also, maybe he gets a bit sad. In other words, he gets a bit upset and he can't do anything about it. So either way, and also actually, do you know what? These words could actually start getting kicked in as well. You're good for nothing. Those words can start affecting you. The things and there's loads more in the book about how words that were spoken to you years ago can actually still be affecting you today, especially words spoken to you during a traumatic incident. Okay, so I'm going to tie this all in a moment to toxic relationships, so just bear with me. So Josephine is fine. There's no problem on her side at all. But Joe feels kind of stressed out with her all the time. Why? Because he's afraid she's going to leave him. And he's also sad for no real reason apart from this past thing getting triggered. This is the source of the issue, guys. The main reason why you react when you're trying to deal with another personality that you think is toxic, maybe they are or maybe they're not, is because the baggage that you have carried around with you that is stored in your reactive mind is getting triggered and triggered and triggered. And this is the main cause of why a person gets so stressed out, loses their temper, worries all the time, and feels stuck. So, how does it all fit into toxic relationships? So let me show you how this fits in, how this all fits in. Okay, so there's you, okay, and there's a colleague. So let's say we have two scenarios here. Either you are or you could be in a toxic relationship with somebody, or that person is not toxic. Okay? So either they are or they're not. So let's say you are involved with somebody who's basically not good for you, putting you down, not really good for you, and either you suspect it, let's say this is a work colleague, you suspect it or you know it. And even though you suspect or you know that the person is toxic, you just, for some reason, you just cannot get yourself away from the person. You can't get yourself away from that person, even though you're suffering. You know the person is wrong for you. You know that it's pulling you down, but you just can't get away. Now, when it comes to a relationship, there's a great little line that people use. Love is blind. Love is blind. We've all heard that. Love is blind. I'm in love with him. Of course, he gives me verbal and mental abuse every single day of my life, but I love him. I love him. I can't live without him. They say love is blind. The truth of the matter is, the only thing that is blind is this thing called the reactive mind. Okay? Because really and truly, you know, really, when, or you can suspect, or you have a knowledge when you're involved with somebody that is not good for you, and you can work it out. Is the person good for you or not? So logically you can do that. But when it comes to the reactive mind, all logic is thrown out the window. It's thrown out the window. Logic gets thrown out the window. Why? Because this reactive mind does not think logically. It works like this. Anything equals anything equals anything equals anything equals anything. It just thinks this is the same as the past. The present and the past are the same thing. What happened in present is the same as what happened in the past. So let me just check something here. I just need to send a little message because my connection kind of got down there a little bit. All right. Now, so it's fine. I'm just waiting for the messages to come back in here. So basically, a toxic person in your environment, you can usually detect that. You can usually detect a toxic personality. There, I got my little thing back here. Sorry, guys. I just got a little bit interrupted by some technical issue. That's fine. It happens. All right. So you either, let's say, okay, so you're in this toxic relationship. You know you're in it, but you can't get out of it. Love is blind, but this reactive mind is the thing that's blind, and it is the thing that causes you to not be able to think logically. So you can't work out, is this person toxic? Maybe the person is toxic, or maybe the person is actually good for you. Okay? So the problem with this situation is that if you can't spot it, or if you can't do anything about it, from my personal experience dealing with people, I've seen people stuck in a toxic relationship, whether it's a colleague or a boss or a friend or a partner or a neighbor or whatever, stuck in a toxic relationship for years, and finally they get out of it. After 10 years, they get out of this toxic relationship. Brilliant! But that's 10 years worth of damage. You know, and that can really, really hurt a person. So it's important to know that the biggest thing that's stopping you from being able to work it out is your baggage. And it's this reactive mind. It's the pain from your past. Okay? Now, we went over the second scenario. And this is going to be terrible. But let's say the person is actually non-toxic. I know that's used in chemical terms. It's non-toxic. But let's say the person is actually not a toxic personality, but something that they say makes you think that they are toxic, but they're not. So this is the second scenario. A person is not toxic, but things that they say make you think they are. Why? Because, again, the reactive mind is telling you they are. It's telling you to stay away from this person, or this person is bad for you. So this confusion that you feel sometimes about, is he a friend? Is she a friend? Are they friends? I don't know. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. This inability to think logically is caused by this reactive mind that you are carrying around with you. It's a bit like spiders, you know. A person might have a fear of spiders. You know, like, yes, there are certain spiders that are deadly, that could kill you. Like down in Australia, I think there's a big black spider or something, like one bite and you're gone. But most spiders, they don't, especially in Ireland, it's like, well, I mean, you might get a little bite off them, but they're not poisonous or anything like that. But people have a huge fear of spiders. Like, all spiders are poisonous when they're not. And the same applies to people. You might think that all people in a certain category are poisonous, but they're not. It was just one person from your past that was poisonous. But there can be people in your life who do pull you down, and you need to work out whether I should get involved with that person or not. Okay, so now, question. Oh, beautiful. I love questions. And by the way, folks, you can pop in as many questions as you want. Why can't you let go even when you know it's toxic? What would be the past problem? Why can't you let go even though you know it's toxic? Good. I'll tell you why. Because your decisions about I'm going to go or I'm going to stay, these decisions, okay, are worked out by the condition of your mind, Alexandra. So if you're able to think clearly, then you'll be able to work out whether to go or stay. And you'll be able to work out how to approach it. And, you know, you're not going to have all these weird emotions and kind of huge things that kick in. But the problem is that because of this pain and because of the trigger thing, this reactive mind starts affecting the thinking. It starts affecting your thinking. So because it affects the computer, it's a bit like a virus on a computer. You know, you type in, send me to Google, all right, and it brings up about 14 different websites, and you didn't get to Google. It's a bit like that you try to make the computer say the right thing, and it doesn't say the right thing. That's what the reactive mind is doing to you. Now we're going to go over how to get rid of it, because yes, Alexandra, it does have to do with the past, because what often happens is it gets you in this particular state of maybe. Instead of deciding yes or no, you're stuck in maybe. And that's what the reactive mind does to you. It causes you to get stuck in maybe. Maybe I will. Oh, maybe I'll see how it goes. You know what? I'll leave it for another couple of years and we'll see how it all works out. Oh, shall I do it tomorrow? I'm not really sure. You know, all these things, these maybes, maybe this, maybe that, it's directly related to your own reactive mind, your own baggage. So how do you handle it? Thanks, Alexandra. Okay. So what do you do? But before this, actually, I have a little participation game for you to lighten this whole thing up. It's not really a game. Let me ask you this. So this is a little exercise I put together for you. Can you, this is your turn now. I'm going to stop. I'm going to drink some water here for about 10 minutes. I'm just joking, maybe about 30 seconds. Give me an example of some things in life that people say to you that make you react. Certain things. Just give me one thing that people say to you or do that make you react, where you lose control. You know, like you're really happy, you want to deal with this person, but they say certain things to you and all of a sudden you explode. So that's your exercise, and pop it into the chat. Give me an example of one thing that people say or do that makes you react. One example of certain things that people say or do that make you react. So give me that in a moment. I already... Oh, very good. Yep. Thanks, Ashton. Yeah. Person's past feelings of loss, rejection, loneliness, fear, independently avoiding confrontation, all can be... Yes. Perfect. Okay, Joy, a compliment. You know what? It shouldn't... I know it's true. It happens. People compliment others and the other person gets worried about it or a bit paranoid. It shouldn't be the case. It doesn't make sense. Does it? Does it make sense that when you're complimented that you feel stressed out or worried or kind of like, oh my God, you know, or embarrassed? It doesn't make sense. That I'm an actor, not doing anything. Thank you, Walter. That's a good one. Oh, you're not really telling the truth. You're pretending. When you're not really pretending, you're telling the truth. Okay. Well, you didn't do that very well, did you? Oh, beautiful, Sonia. I love that one. You screwed up again. You messed up again. You always mess up, don't you? Beautiful one, Sonia. Love that one. You live alone? Poor thing, you must be so lonely. Oh, lovely, Rebecca. Lovely. You know? And again, it's like this sympathy thing that's... It seems nice, but underneath it's like a little... Oh, it's like a knife going in underneath the cover. Brilliant. Thanks, Rebecca. People telling me I can't achieve something. Wonderful. Yeah, like Ashton, in all honesty, somebody telling you can't achieve something, you can obviously go, well, thanks very much for your opinion. Great. Didn't affect me at all. That's it. Didn't affect me. I'm just going to continue to do what I was going to do. What you said to me is what you said to me, and that's it. But instead of that, people go, well, do you know what? He told me I can't achieve anything, so now I'm going to prove him wrong. I'm really going to go out there and be successful. It's a reaction. It's a reaction. Now, if you were doing it logically, then that's different, but these things can also be a reaction to make the other person, to prove the other person wrong. So, brilliant example. Thank you, Ashton. I shouldn't do that with anything, just that phrase in general. You shouldn't do that. Thank you very much, Ellie. Lynn, criticise you. Thank you. You can't call over tomorrow. Oh, that's a brilliant one, Dolores. That cuts your communication. Brilliant one. You can't call over tomorrow, which means you can't communicate to me. Sorry, I'm going to cut your reach. You stay that way. I'm going to stay this way. And it cuts you. So brilliant one, Dolores. Thank you. Marula, dismissive. Yeah, brilliant. Again. Lynn, you're stupid. And I'm sorry, I'm not calling you stupid. Lynn, you're stupid. That came across terrible. Yes, that's your example you gave me. Brilliant example. My mum used to tell me I couldn't go and do things. This is a huge impact. Thank you, Ashton. Brilliant. Lynn, you're stupid, so you look for approval. Exactly. Just purposely made invalidation. Yes. Yes, exactly. That is what I meant. You know, when somebody says you're an actor, it's like you're only pretending. Yeah, it's invalidation. Not smart enough. Yeah. All these things. Brilliant. Okay, so now, what do we do about this? As I mentioned to you, I'm not going to give you a whole range of techniques on how you deal with this person out here. Okay? There are things that you can learn about that, but that's not what we're going to go over tonight. We're going to be going over you and how to help you clear the baggage. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, this webinar is based off the book Dianetics, which I'm going to show it to you again at the end. Okay? And this is something I came across in the 90s, and I've been promoting this and using this with people ever since. Why? Not because it's a beautiful theory, not because I think the author is amazing, not because I like the colour of the book. No, it works, and that's all. It works. And it gives stable results, not just results that are like, oh, you feel great one day and then you're back to feeling bad the next day. Okay? So let me just explain to you the basic structure about how to clear up these reactions so that you can strengthen yourself to deal with persons who are toxic and to help you to clear up persons who are not toxic versus persons who are toxic. We do this thing called auditing. Now that word basically means to listen and to guide. Okay? Now, in auditing, it's done with two people. You've got a person who's called an auditor. And the person who's an auditor is a person who listens and who guides. The person who is receiving the help, got their eyes closed, though fully awake, is called a pre-clear. Pre means before, and clear is basically the end result you're going for. Okay? This is the end result of Dianetics. Okay? It's clear. And a clear is basically somebody who's just back to themselves again, able to think clearly, able to think logically, able to use their mind. And what are you doing with this? The auditor is helping the person to return to things that have happened to them in the past. Painful incidents. I'm sorry, it's gruesome. I know it's terrible. But using the exact 10-step procedure of Dianetics, he takes each incident, emotionally painful or physically painful, and the idea is, and the theory is, to get rid of the pain and to get rid of the stress from that incident and to release the hold that that incident has on the person. And so that auditor is going to bring that pre-clear through that incident enough times using the exact procedures in the book. It's not just chitter-chatter. It's not just, oh, let's talk about this, let's talk about that. It's a very exact step-by-step procedure. Going to clear that up until the pain is gone, and that's it. It's cleared up. Next one. Move on to the next one. A loss, an upset, a tragedy. All these painful incidents get cleared up. The end result is clear, where a person has cleared up the stuff that's happened to them in the past. So, as I mentioned at all my webinars, Dianetics is not a way of life. It's not techniques that you apply daily. It's not how to win friends and influence people. It's not about that. It's about clearing the baggage so it's cleared. End of story. Once it's cleared, it's cleared. Why would you have to keep clearing something that's already cleared? And Dianetics is done until a person has achieved this state of clear, and that's what it's about. And when a person is clear, two things happen. Number one is they are much more able to work out who is toxic and who is not toxic. From observing information, able to work out who is who. And number two is, when they are dealing with a toxic person, or some confrontation, or some person that's very difficult to deal with, they don't get all this crazy reactions kicking in. And they're able to deal with it much more easily. That doesn't mean it might not be a challenge, but the person isn't going to be kind of controlled by this stuff. Okay? So, the reason, why am I saying to do this? Why am I saying to do this? The reason is this. If you have a toxic person in your life and you decide, you know what, I'm going to cut the person out. That's it. Okay? I'm cutting the person out. I'm moving to Alaska. Goodbye. Perfect. Okay, you move to Alaska and you're actually feeling much, much better. You're away from it all and it feels great. The problem is that you've brought your reactive mind with you to Alaska. And all it takes is for something similar to happen again for that incident to get triggered. All it takes is for some similar situation to happen again for the same thing to occur, for something to trigger. And that is why you need to handle the baggage, is because it follows you into the next relationship, into the next workplace that you're in. It follows you. Okay. Now, so what I want to do is I want to find out, first of all, does anybody have any questions on what I went over? On auditing, or on why you have to handle the baggage in order to successfully handle toxic personalities in the future? Does anybody have any questions? And if you do, please pop them into the chat, because I'm going to go over now What I would recommend next, if any of you are interested in continuing or you found this interesting, I'm going to tell you what you should do next. But in the meantime, let me just get in here to see if there's any other comments coming in there. Okay. That have addictions, but they don't see themselves and in bad mother. Okay, Monica, thank you very much. Ashton is lack of people's understanding. Monica, people are too quick to approve and accept social norms. Okay, yeah, and that's influenced a lot by the reactive mind. That's why people aren't always thinking logically, because, and they say and do things like this. It's not that people are bad. Personally, honestly, I believe people are basically good. I do not believe that people are bad. I believe that people are influenced by the pain from their past. And once you clear up that, you restore a person's goodness. That's what I believe, and that's what I've seen. That book I recommended earlier in the chat. Okay, good. Thank you, Ashton. Ashton will definitely look for. It's about clearing. Okay, good. It's black and white. Okay, fine. Great. Fine. Social means everything's based on social interaction, not much. Okay, got it. The bottom line is this, is that yes, there are all sorts of things that you can do in your environment to help you to improve things in life, right? But the bottom line is that if you don't clear the baggage, it follows you. And Dianetics is something that anybody can learn to do to really help them to clear up what's stuck in the background. Okay, so here is what I would recommend. If you are the kind of person who wants to know more about toxic personalities, about why they act the way they do, why they do the things they do, why you react the way you react, and what you can actually do about it, then, as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm doing a 4-part online course, which is called The Mind Explained. And that course includes a copy of this book, Dianetics, which is sent out to you free of charge as part of your enrollment for the course. And on the course, I'm going to be breaking down in 4 chunks the basic parts of your reactive mind, explain this in more detail, and we'll go over the solution in more detail as well. So that's what I would recommend for you if you're interested in kind of getting going and learning more about it now. So that's 1 hour on a Friday night. It's 8 o'clock and it's on Zoom. And the link is going to be going up for that online course right now. So anyway, after this webinar is finished, the link will stay there and you can check it out later. So you don't have to necessarily get into it right now. Okay? One-time process or a lifetime. Annalisa, it's not a lifetime. It's until the stuff is cleared. Now, that's different lengths of time for different people because different people have different amounts of stuff in their past that they need to address. So I hope that helps. Okay, so that's the course. All right, now I really would love everybody who's on this webinar tonight to be with me on the course. I will personally take care of you to make sure that you understand. After each lesson, I give you some exercises to do. You send them in to me personally and I'll correct them to make sure you fully got the information and you can apply it. Now, if you're not sure, or if you're not sure if you can commit the time to do the course on a Friday evening for an hour, it's 4 Fridays, 4 1-hour slots. If you don't feel that you can commit that, then at the very least I would recommend getting yourself a copy of the book and reading it. And at the moment there's a very nice offer on for the book, so you can find out about that, and Sylvia is going to pop up the thing there. And Dee is on the thing there. Dee is plugging. What am I saying? Dee, you're saying it's brilliant. Oh, I love it. Yeah. So just ask Dee all about it. She'll tell you it's great. But yeah, it's something that is designed to kind of try to make these things simpler, because you know what, this stuff can be very confusing. There's so much information out there about how you deal with people, self-improvement. This is very, very basic and very straightforward. So I hope that helps. Okay. Very good. And so many people talk to you. Deal with one person just once, but another set of feelings with another person figures those will almost come into your life. Brilliant, Ashton. Thank you so much for that. Okay. Now, so those are the 2 things. We're going to finish off now. So as I mentioned, if you want to get going now, get yourself enrolled on the online course. I would personally love to have every single person on it, and that applies to everybody on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Zoom. And I will take care of you on it. I'll make sure you get the information and you really understand it and answer any questions that you have. But again, if you're not able to commit to that, then definitely I would say get yourself a copy of the book. The link is there now. Okay, folks, so I hope this has been of help to you. I want to just finish off now by thanking everybody on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. I don't see you here, but I know you're out there, and I want to thank you for your attention and your time. And for everybody on Zoom, I really and genuinely appreciate you giving me your hour tonight so I can tell you this data and give you the information. And for everybody who's given examples, thank you so much for the examples that you've given. It really makes it easier for me when I get your feedback from everybody about all your different viewpoints, and I really and genuinely appreciate it. So I'm going to thank everybody. I don't like not acknowledging everybody. That's who I am. So thank you, Borka, Grania, Walter, Lydia, Rebecca, Marula, Alexandra, Lynn, Dolores, Dee, Bindu, Dan, Joy, Annalisa, Sonia, Sanet. I probably said that wrong. Sane or Sanet? I'm sorry if I did. Monica, Ellie, Sarmita, and Laura. Thank you so much for your time tonight. Great. You're all welcome. Bless you too, Sonia. Thanks, Dan. Marula, you're welcome. Walter, you're very welcome. Okay, folks, so I'm going to say goodbye to you. Thank you so much for your time. The links are going to stay open. The chat is going to stay open. But I would say goodbye to you. Have a beautiful evening, and thanks for joining me tonight. Okay, bye for now.